Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr, and as you can see I've had a little bit of a run-in with what I thought was silver colour to try and take the warmth out of the blonde in my hair, and in fact it was just straight up violet. Welcome to today's video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, and today I want to take you through what is going to be coming up in the next month or next few weeks in Lufenia difficulty, and also give you guys some suggestions on characters that have already been available that you may want to keep an eye on, if that may already be in your roster, that are going to be useful for multiple different Lufenia difficulty missions so that you guys can plan a little bit of your pulls ahead of time for the early Lufenia stage. So if that's something that you guys are all interested in, then of course stay tuned and keep on watching. As always, everybody don't forget to check all of the social media links in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord and Patreon. Twitch this week I'm obviously going to be covering Edward's event as it's released this week, as well as streaming hopefully what is the last part of my Final Fantasy IX playthrough, and I'm planning on doing a very large scale Final Fantasy stream / video series that I'm hoping you guys will look forward to, but I'm still ironing out the details on it, so I will keep you guys updated as and when I can with that particular project. With Patreon, I shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video, so I can give special thanks to each and every person that subscribes to the channel and wants to support it further. And today that person is going to be Pale Raider, who is very new to my Patreon as well, so thank you very much. I've been getting a lot of people who are wanting to support the channel further thanks to the Would You Pull section of my videos, and I'm really pleased that it's gotten the positive reception that it has. Obviously I'm not going to be having any Would You Pull on this particular video, but for every Should You Pull video I'm really glad that I can showcase your guys' opinions and what you guys feel about stuff going forward. Obviously don't forget to check out all of the websites that are available. As you can see just here, I actually have a new one for you as well in Lufenia.dissidia.dev, which is a database of every single Lufenia that's been released up to this point in JP. So if you guys want to research that sort of thing a little bit further and like plan ahead just like this video is planning to help you to do, then definitely check that website out. And of course don't forget to check out all the other content creators for Opera Omnia that are out there besides myself. So before we go talking about various characters you might already have that are going to be useful for Lufenia difficulty, what is Lufenia difficulty exactly? Well, as I said, it's a difficulty setting that is the next stage up from Chaos. So we've had EX, then we've had Cosmos, then we've had Chaos, which we currently have, and we're about to get, alongside with the final chapter of Arc 2 and Warrior of Light's Burst, Lufenia difficulty, which is the next stage up. And it is difficult in a different way to how Chaos was, because instead of it being just stat sticks breaking against each other and just hoping that your stuff is strong enough to take it on, Lufenia introduces a more puzzle-esque element to the fights by introducing the Lufenia Orb. So what this is essentially a countdown that goes down low during your turn and your opponent's, more so during your opponent's usually, where if it hits 0, you're either going to be taking a really massive attack or you're just instantly going to die. But each Lufenia Orb has a particular criteria that enables you to kind of either freeze the orb's countdown or make its turn count go up or reset it entirely. So you need to bring certain characters along that are going to fulfill these criteria in order for you to be able to make it so that you're able to stop this orb from ticking down to 0 so that you don't instantly die in one shot while you're still trying to take the boss down. It's worth doing the Lufenia stuff because it's also going to introduce high armor tokens, because high armor tokens is the next stage up in armor that's going to give you break damage limit, break HP limit to a certain level, so you're going to be able to deal that much more damage, you're going to have that much more health. It's going to help you out in a great deal. So basically, making this primer for Lufenia difficulty, or at least giving you guys some looks into characters you might already have that are going to be useful for quite a few different Lufenia sort of missions and things like that, I thought would be worthwhile so people don't panic and think, oh god, there's a new difficulty setting, I now have to pull on every banner, because in reality you actually don't. A lot of these characters are going to be helpful to you at least for the first few months of Lufenia, and hopefully by the time they're not useful anymore, they're going to be sort of superseded by characters you will have pulled during those months. So the first character I'm going to talk about here, that's probably a character a lot of players already have, that's at least going to be useful for the initial couple of Lufenia missions, is going to be Keita. Now Keita has been useful to us for quite a long time just through her ability to dodge, counter-attack, be a tank in a really roundabout way, but she's actually very useful in the first couple of Lufenia difficulty quests after Warrior of Light's release. And the particular mentions are going to go to 8's Lost Chapter and Kurosame's event, both of which immediately follow Warrior of Light. Now, the orb count for 8's Lost Chapter, and I'll obviously cover the events themselves in greater detail as they are released, as I have done with Chaoses and Chaos Challenges before now. The criteria that you need to meet when it comes to 8's Lost Chapter is that you want to counterattack things. Whenever you have a counterattack, obviously in the spirit of what 8 does, you'll add turns to the orb's counter. Now, Keita does that by herself, and she also happens to share an element with 8, which makes it a lot easier for you to deal damage straight up, because unlike a Chaos Challenge, it doesn't matter whether you're using synergy characters or not. So Keita's ability to do counterattacks in 8's Lost Chapter is going to do absolute wonders for you. And then there's actually a lot of characters in 8's Lost Chapter you can use, so it means that you may not want to pull for 8. Kurosame's event, similarly, is an event with a new character in it. There's lots of exciting things. Kurosame is actually a very strong character, but if for whatever reason you don't want to pull for Kurosame, Keita's actually really good for that as well, because the criteria for the Lufenia orb in Kurosame's event is ice damage, which Keita also happens to do. So if you have Keita, then you might find that the first couple of Lufenia missions are going to be a little easier than you might think. Now, this next character I'm going to talk about is actually a character a lot of people have had either from the first time he came around or from a recent time that he came around as well through free pulls, etc. It's actually Edge. Now, Edge doesn't actually play ball when it comes to sort of the Lufenia turn count or anything like that, but with a lot of different sort of early Lufenia fights, and I maintain the word, or I absolutely sort of highlight the word early there, because some bosses later on do counteract this. Edge makes it so that you really don't have to worry all about that much about the Lufenia orb at all, because Edge's party-wide evasion on his EX attack allows you to pretty much just evade the attack altogether. Some examples of this include 8's Lost Chapter you can do this on, Bahamut with Kuja. It's hilarious to take Edge along to Bahamut's fight, him get all charged up for his Mega Flare, and then miss. And then you can also take him to Kamlanaught's event, you can also take him to Gao's Lost Chapter. All of this is going to be in the first few months of Lufenia, because Square obviously got wise to the fact that people were using Edge a lot in early Lufenia because of his ability to just go, this whole mechanic doesn't matter. But being able to bring Edge along to a lot of different fights, if you have access to him already, he's actually going to save you a lot of hassle in the first couple of months of Lufenia. Another character I want to talk about that's actually going to be used because of her versatility within Lufenia difficulty and just in general is going to be Relm, and she's going to be coming out with Strago and her EX realization and her rework and stuff like that, and these are all characters that I'm going to be talking about that just have an EX, so you don't have to panic too much about getting LDs, getting bursts or anything like that. The whole point of this video is to give you guys some hope in characters that you may already have or are looking forward to spend EX tokens on or something like that, that will give you some breathing room within Lufenia difficulty. And now I'm not saying that you can rely on these entirely. You are going to have to pull on stuff over the course of time and just make sure that you've got all of your roles covered, but a lot of these characters are going to help you a great deal. Now, Relm, the best thing about Relm is her synergy with your summons. So basically, when she uses her sketch summon, it matches the element of whatever summon she's using at that time. So basically, you can use this to manipulate your party in order to match a particular Lufenia difficulty mission if the orb requirement is to deal elemental damage. So in the example of Kurosame, as I spoke about earlier with Keita, ice damage. Oh, well, I'll just equip Shiva and then use sketch summon, and there we go, I've got ice damage. Kuja, like Bahamut wants holy damage because Kuja's shtick is all about holy damage. So you might want to bring her along in Alexander. Gao, you're going to want to bring earth damage along. Bring brothers. Xander, even, who is months away from now, wants dark damage as his Lufenia orb requirement. Bring Relm. Relm is very, very good at just being able to keep up on top of a lot of these missions just because of her versatility in being able to bring whatever elemental damage you need at that given time. So, though she's not actually out yet with her EX plus and her realization, she might be somebody you might want to consider putting EX tokens on, or if you're pulling on Strago, Relm is actually just as much a prize as he is. Now, you'll notice with a lot of these characters that are going to be useful for early Lufenia with just their EX, a lot of them are tied to Imperil Enchant within a support shell, and a character who exemplifies this magnificently is Garnet. Now, Garnet is usable not just because she has the Imperil enchant in her kit, she also has Last Stand, she also has healing, like her Holy Prayer does mass Imperil on 2 elements, it does mass healing, batteries, it's like a reset button straight off the bat, and her longevity is really strong as well, so she's gonna outlast, she has auras, she has everything that you really need to carry you through a lot of these missions. And she was ranked very highly on Ultima.com, which is JP's kind of tier list as such. She was rated very highly on there for a very long time after her release, well into Lufenia difficulty, and there's a reason for that. So you could take her in multiple different missions, including Lightning's mission when she comes around. I mean, obviously a lot of people are going to want to pull for Lightning, but Garnet, even though the enemy resists magic, can be brought along to that because the trigger is lightning damage. So therefore, just use her, get Ramuh's enchantment on her, get the lightning imperil off, and then you're good to go. That count's not going to be too much of a worry for you. She can also be used in Gladio's mission. Now, Gladio's mission, she's not actually, it's the same with Caius. She's not actually, or Caius's mission, which I'll talk about in a moment, she's useful on as well. But in Gladio's mission, she's not useful necessarily because of the enchant imperil. She's useful for her ability to just snap her fingers and everybody be back at full health. Think Ishtola, but way after Ishtola's kind of had her time in the sun. Garnet just covers all bases on that front. And in Caius's mission in particular, the trigger for Caius's mission is to inflict multiple debuffs at once. So you have to inflict 4+ debuffs in one turn, which obviously Caius can do. Garnet can actually do that as well, because while her EX inflicts water and thunder imperil on all enemies, that counts because you can do 2 debuffs on more than one enemy. So she can actually be brought along for that, while still providing the Last Stand, the burst heals, the burst batteries, and still a continuous stream of damage. So honestly, Garnet is somebody that I think a lot of people didn't quite understand quite how good she was for a long period of time when she was released. Like, she was ridiculous when she was released, but she's got a long-lasting time ahead of her too. Now, this is a character that I've spoken about back when people were pulling for him, and there was a reason that I said that he had a long life ahead of him, and I know a lot of content creators spoke highly of this character with regards to Lufenia because he's usable in a particular mission that I know a lot of people are not looking forward to, and that's Raijin. Raijin, like Garnet, has the ability to Thunder, Enchant, and Imperil, and has healing in his kit, so he's very much a substitute for Garnet in that regard. But what he does also have access to is the ability to paralyze things on command. Like, every 3 turns he has, he will get a paralysis off. And this is usable in multiple places. So Camlonaut's Lost Chapter, as I spoke about before with Edge, Camlonaut's actually, his event is actually quite beatable by a lot of things, but Camlonaut's actual thing is paralysis. When he gets his LD, he actually becomes a lot better. But if you don't have Camlonaut, then Raijin with just his EX has the ability to paralyze, and the criteria for the Lufenia orb in Camlonaut's mission is to deny their turn, whether that be through Eld Nash and using Terror, or Paralysis, or Sleep with Edward. As long as you can get rid of the turn, then the orb will go back up. And this can also be said for Cloud's Burst, or the event that comes along with Cloud's Burst, in that it's the turn count is also reliant on denying their turn. So Raijin is also going to be useful for that. However, the ability to kind of have the paralysis on check, as well as being able to inflict debuffs like the Thunder Resist Down and Paralysis, is also going to be very useful during Reno's event. Now, Reno's event is one that a lot of people have said, or those who play JP have said, is extremely difficult, and it's one that a lot of players are worried about. But Raijin is actually very useful for this, and he's also quite fortunate, and that is one of the earlier characters to get their level 80 awakening after Lightning gets her burst and everything. So not long after that, Raijin's also going to have his level 80. So Raijin's actually going to be very usable with the kit that he already has. So if you already have access to Raijin, well, you can take him to Lightning's event, just like Garnet, because lightning damage is the way that you sort of push back the orb on that. Denying turns is going to be useful during both Camlonaut's event and Cloud's event as well, so you can use that. And the ability to inflict the debuffs and keep the enemies in check in general, because Reno is very much a case of like using his pyramid debuff to lock enemies out of their turns and things like that. But if you don't necessarily want to pull for Reno, then you could use Raijin in his place. So Raijin is actually a very strong character across multiple events for quite a while to come. So the next character that I want to talk about doesn't have any kind of enchant or imperil or anything like that. She's just a really strong support and has been since the day she came out, and it's Arciela. Arciela's ability to use HP silence won't work against a very large majority of orb attacks or anything like that. However, having access to HP silence means that you're not having to deal with other HP attacks that the boss is going to have quite as badly. And also the ability to have fast cast, the ability to have dispel on command as well, and AoE heals, support capabilities, batteries, everything. She is going to be useful in a wide variety of Lufenia missions. Kuja's one with Bahamut is a great example of that. With Bahamut, what Bahamut does is like he will inflict lock, and he has other targets that you have to hit. So you kind of have to bring along somebody that can do AoE damage. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck attacking Bahamut, and this is what Kuja is designed to do. But Arciela can provide support while she's already doing that, and also brings along the dispel and things like that. That's going to be really handy. You can also bring her along to Beatrix's Lost Chapter for exactly that reason. Having access to dispel on a support character is going to help you a great deal, because Beatrix, when she gets her LD, she's going to gain a lot of dispel in her kit, so she's able to just dispel as and when she needs to. And dispelling a buff is actually also the criteria for pushing back the Lufenia orb in that particular mission. So while Arciela's ability to kind of dispel everything all at once might not actually be the best idea, because you kind of want to dispel things little by little, you do have to be careful with that. But her ability to do that is still there, and that makes her viable. And I've even seen her used in Xander's mission, where Xander is she's more used again for the support capabilities, the fast cast, the dispel. She's used just generally, like, because the criteria for Xander, as we covered with Relm, is going to be pushing back using dark damage. Arciela doesn't do dark damage, but she does kind of back you up in very nice ways. And then even much later down the line with Firian's Burst, like when Firian's Burst comes out, Firian is a healer, like Firian does healing things, he's like, and he gets a lot better with traps and stuff like that. But if you don't necessarily want to pull on those banners, then Arciela is going to be really helpful here as well, because her EX has burst healing on it. So the healing is the criteria for that particular Lufenia orb as well. So every time you heal an ally, you're going to push the orb back a bit. So because her EX heals everybody, that's 3 turns pushed back. And because she has dispel on top of it, then it all adds up to being very helpful. So Arciela is definitely a character that's worthwhile for a lot of people as of right now. Now, when I spoke about Reno's event, it was one of the missions that people are looking forward to least when it comes to Lufenia, or early Lufenia at the very least. And there is another mission that a character or players are very much dreading, not looking forward to in the slides, and that's going to be Kieran's Lost Chapter. Because a lot of people don't necessarily want to pull for Kieran, but Kieran's Lost Chapter is very, very difficult. Now, Kieran's Lost Chapter in particular has a thing where you kind of just have to out damage everything, and you have to keep their bravery as low as possible. And because of this, Trey is actually a very useful character to have access to. It also helps that Trey's LD, as and when it comes out, is also extremely powerful, and he's currently one of the top rated characters in JP as of this video at least. And the ability to instantly break things and to keep their bravery under control with the various traps that he has is very helpful. And Kieran's event isn't the only place where Trey is useful either. In Gladiolus' mission as well, I mean, a lot of people are pulling for Gladio, and you know, a lot of people are going to have Gladio, but if you can't get him, or if you don't want to get him, then you can actually use Trey here just for the ability to keep things under control. And the same can be said of Rude's event. Now, Rude is a character that I know a lot of people are wanting to pull for as well. Rude's like a very, very strong support character with healing, batterying, buffs, all sorts of stuff. But just having the ability to keep bravery under control, because the orb freeze, or the ability to push the orb back in this particular mission, is having the enemy's bravery be under a certain amount. So Trey is obviously going to help you be able to do that by having his instant break mechanic, as well as having these traps go off that are going to lower the enemy's bravery. So like I said, Trey is a magnificent character to have right now anyway. He was really strong when he came out, but he does actually have his uses for the next few months, and he's usable in a fair few different Lufenia missions too. Now, this character that I'm going to talk about is actually useful much later on, so like when he's had his level 80 buffs and everything like that, and he's another one that's early for this, but he's useful even before that as well, is Sazh. Now, I spent a very large amount of resources trying to grab Sazh, and there is a very good reason for that. he is usable for a very long time to come. In the initial batch of Lufenia difficulty missions, having Sazh available for, say, 8's mission is going to be really handy because you're going to be able to extend the buffs of characters that have counterattacks. Whether you have Cater, like I said earlier, or you've managed to get 8's LD, being able to extend those buffs is going to be really strong. Also, keeping on top of your offenses, making your crit damage higher, making your attack higher, having the speed that he does, having the Brave Overflow that he gives the party is going to be really handy for quite a long time to come. Now, I've seen Sazh used in numerous missions much later down the line as well. Like, Sazh is used in Sephiroth's Burst event as well, so if you're not particularly keen on pulling for Sephiroth's Burst, which I know a lot of people are not, then Sazh is going to help you there as well. Aranea's Lost Chapter even, which is way in advance. The criteria for pushing back the orb in that is critical damage. So why not bring Sazh along, who is going to make everyone's critical damage more frequent and higher? It's going to help you a great deal with that. He's also usable in Ram's mission, which is Divine Diablos, because the criteria in that one is to grant more than one buff, or 6 or more buffs in one turn. And there aren't very many characters that can do that. Penelo is one of those characters. Beatrix is one of those characters. Obviously, Ramza is one of those characters, and he's a character that a lot of people are going to be wanting to pull for. But Sazh is also one of those characters as well, and his buffs are not to be sniffed at, so definitely consider Sazh when it comes to looking through your roster and thinking, oh, there's so much that I need to worry about when it comes to Lufenia, because you actually have a lot of options as it is. And then the last character that I want to talk about, I'm going to mention because I've seen him in so many video clears of so many different lost chapters, events, all that have Lufenia difficulty from now all the way down until Guy's release, which is months from now, is Leon. Now, Leon is an absolute powerhouse, and it has been just because mechanically he's ridiculous. In a lot of ways, he's actually not that helpful for Lufenia because he's not there to push the orb back in most scenarios. In Xander's one, like I said earlier, when it came to Relm or Arciela and stuff like that, dark damage is the way you want to go with that. So if you've got Leon, then all damage is dark, like from him. So like you're going to have access to that on top of everything. Do bear in mind that having one character that's going to just push the orb back usually isn't enough on its own. You need to build your party around that particular criteria that you need to push the orb back, and be given that the turns drop 1 for every one of your players' turns and 2 for every one of the enemy's turns, you're gonna have to keep on top of it in more ways than you might think. But Leon does this with absolute aplomb with anything relating to dark damage, but he also makes it so that you can build more heavily around that criteria, because you just don't have to worry about bravery damage anymore unless it's not non-elemental. So he can be brought to Rude's event, he can be brought to Camlanaught's event, he can be brought to 8's event, he can be brought to Gladio's event, he can be brought to Guy's event, and Guy's event is all about earth damage, which Leon ain't doing. But the fact that he has that ability to just write off bravery damage and just go, no, you're healing me instead, is useful in so many ways. Obviously, if you have better options by that time, you're probably going to use those. But having a Leon in your back pocket that you can pull out and go, well, at least I know I'm going to be safer having this character in my party, is going to absolutely write volumes for you. So that's going to be all for today's video. Obviously, I haven't mentioned a single character that has an LD or a burst or anything like that. All of the characters I've mentioned here have just got their EX, and I wanted to show you guys that you can still make use of these EX only characters even months from now. So don't panic about this new power creep, because it is manageable. The jump from Chaos to Lufenia is not as high as the jump from Cosmos to Chaos was. So you've got a lot to look forward to. We've got the high armor tokens that we're going to be able to do. We still have Chaos challenges as well if you still want to use synergy characters for everything. There's a lot to look forward to coming up in Opera Omnia, and I hope that you guys are looking forward to what there is on the horizon as much as I am. Also, I've just seen Kadaj's sort of overview videos on Twitter, and that's making me consider playing JP. I'm not gonna lie. I know a lot of you guys read me to filth because I don't play JP. That character is making me consider it. Anyways, like I said, that's going to be it from me today. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the video or can take something from it. Don't forget to check out all of the websites that I've listed. Tom Retrieve also has a fantastic research sort of document on Lufenia, so definitely go and check them out, as well as the lufenia.dissidia.dev as well, if you want information on all the stuff that's going to be coming up for Lufenia in the near future. Obviously, Obviously, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it out to anyone who plays Opera Omnia, and of course, click that bell for notifications of any future videos I might be making, and I shall hopefully see you guys on either my next stream or my next video. So thank you all again, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.